it's Christy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a card using the new Dandy Day stamp set from Lawn Fawn. So I have stamped out the images I'll be using on some Nina Solar White cardstock with Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I'll be coloring with my Copic markers today. I'm starting with the Mama Mouse on the left, and for her I'm using W00, W1, and W3. I began with the W3 laying in some shadows, and then I'm blending out with the W1 as the mid-tone. I want to make sure that the area on her face is nice and light, so I'll be using the W00 for that, and also a little bit on her belly. And I did go back with a double layer to just intensify that and just create a little bit more contrast on her. And then for the baby mouse, I'm going to skip the W3 and just use the W1 on the W00, so it'll be a little bit of a lighter shade. So I use the W1 as the shadow, and the W00 I just blended into the white areas. And I also did a double layer on the baby as well. Then for the other mouse, I wanted him to be a little bit different, so I'm going to add in the W5. So that will be my darkest for him. And I'm going to do my shadows on the opposite side of his body. Since he is facing toward the left, his shadows are going to go on the right. And then I'll blend out with the W3 and then use the W1 as my highlight. So I actually won't use the W00 on him at all. Then I'm going to move on to RV10 and RV11. I'm using the RV11 to give them all some rosy cheeks and color in their noses and their ears. And I'll blend out that on their ears with the RV10 and add a little shading to their bellies with that as well. And then I'm moving on to my greens. I'm using YG61, YG63, and YG67. And I'm going to color in the stems of my dandelions and also the pair of leaves there. So I'm just using the YG67 as my shadowed areas and then blending out with the YG63. I used just those two shades on the one that the mouse is holding, but I'll use all three shades on the rest of them. And so once I have that all blended out, I'm going to move on to the centers of my dandelions. And for those, I'll be using Y13, Y15, and Y17. And I'll also color the dandelion that is still in flower with those shades. Just using that Y17 as the darkest, and then blending out with a little Y15 and then a little Y13 as the highlight. And then I will use the BG13 to just outline all of the little stems of the dandelions that have gone to seed, just so they have a little bit of color on them as well, and some shadowed areas there too. It's not real bright, but it just gives them a little extra something. And then I'll trim these out with the matching dies. For my focal panel, I've cut down 2 pieces of cardstock at an angle. So I've used a light aqua for the sky, and then I've used a dark green for the grass, which I cut down with the grassy border. And I'm going to stamp my sentiment onto that with some Noble Fir ink. So I'm using the sentiment that says, "Have a dandy day." And I thought that went perfectly on the curve with that sharp edge there. I just thought it softened it up a bit. Then I'm going to pop my card base in my MISTI. I'm using Narwhal cardstock, and I'm stamping with Hippo ink. And I will be stamping out another one of the mice and a dandelion and a couple of the little wish fluff, and a couple more sentiments that say I couldn't have wished for a better friend. So once I have those done, I'm actually going to go back to my focal panel, and I wanted to stamp out a few more of those dandelion seeds that are floating in the breeze. And I'm just doing those with Memento Tuxedo Black, and then I can begin to assemble my focal panel. So I'm going to use some liquid glue on the bottom of the grass border to adhere that nice and flat. And then I can grab my little mice. I'm going to start with the one that is flying off in the breeze, and I'm going to adhere him on the top right corner, just getting him placed exactly where I want him and then pressing him down. And then I will take the mama with the baby and I'm going to put her kind of over towards the left-hand side, and then I can fill in the area around them with some of the other dandelions. So I have this one that's kind of lost some of its seeds that are kind of blowing off into the air over on the far left, and I'm going to tuck the leaves right down between the stem and the grass there so it looks like it's attached. And then I have the little yellow dandelion I'm going to adhere in the center for that nice bright pop of color. And then I've got one more tiny little dandelion that's going to go on the far right. The pattern paper I'm using is from the new Dandy Day collection. So I've taken the yellow print and trimmed that down at the same angle as the focal panel. It's just a little bit taller, so it will show from both the top and the bottom. So I'm going to adhere that right to my card base. I'm going to leave a little bit of that gray cardstock showing at the top to match with the cardstock that's showing at the bottom, and then just smooth that into place. And then I have added some foam tape to the back of the focal panel, so I will peel off the release papers and then I can get that lined up, and I'm just going to come down a little bit from the top again so I have that pattern paper showing from both the top and bottom, and just press that down once I have it nice and straight on the card. And then I got a little bit of a ink smudge down in the bottom right corner by accident, so I'm going to cover that up with a little extra stamping. So I'm going back to my hippo ink that I used on the inside of the card, and I'm going to stamp out another dandelion and some more of those seeds, just making sure that that is a good impression since that dandelion stamp is overlapping the edge of the Misty. So once I have that in place, I can pull that out, and that covered that up very nicely. You would never be able to tell. I'm going to grab a little bit of lemon lawn trimmings, and I'm going to wrap that around the card right below the focal panel, so it will be overlapping that pattern paper. And I'm just going to tie that into a nice little bow, and then I can adjust the loops by just tugging on the tails and getting it down to the size that I want it. I wanted it to be nice and small. And once I have that pulled tightly, I can grab a pair of scissors and trim off the tails to the length that I want them. And then to keep that in place, I'm going to grab a mini glue dot and just put that on the tip of my scissors and slide it under the knot to hold that down into place. To finish off the card, I'm going to add a little bit of crystal stickles to the centers of the 3 dandelions that have gone to seed. So it's just a tiny pop of glitter on today's card, but I think it does add something extra, especially when you tip it into the light. So there is my final card, and I'll give you another peek at the inside as well. I'm actually kind of happy that that little accident happened in the bottom right hand corner, because it took my card in a direction that I wouldn't have gone otherwise, and I really liked how it turned out. So let me know if you ever have some happy accidents happen on your cards and what you've done to fix them. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. You can also ring that notification bell if you want to be sure that my videos always end up in your feed. And if you'd like to keep on watching, here are 2 extra videos I thought you might also enjoy. I hope you all have an absolutely amazing day. Bye-bye.